Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Sponsored by Game Time. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Falcons Squad Show post-game edition. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman and Locked On analyst Jarvis Davis. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code Locked On NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And our squad show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the good, the bad, the ugly, we're all on display tonight. We'll talk about that. And yes, we did have a Brilland Trice sighting. We'll download on that too. And of course, culinary. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the culinary at the Benz is next level. Jarvis is going to share his thoughts. Aaron and I are going to share some thoughts too. But first, let's talk about the comeback that one Aaron Freeman predicted. So the Falcons blasted back with 17 points in that third quarter after one Jarvis Davis had left Easton Stick for dead. But not Aaron Freeman. Free will never walk away from what his guy is able to do. He redeemed himself by, if we are being honest, Free, a tough outing in the first half, but he finished going 19 of 32, 473 yards and a touchdown to redeem himself. But what specifically did you like and what were you most impressed about with Stick's performance in the second half?
I mean, it wasn't like Easton Stick was like making big time throws in the second half. He just got to managing the game, which is something he didn't really do particularly well in the first half, which led to some of those turnovers. And just be a veteran quarterback, find your open receiver, hand the ball off to, other players and whatnot. But, he was able to hit that throw to Chris Blair for that 52-yard touchdown that tied up the game late in the third quarter. But it was just basically you did not see that first game against the Lions. Like Easton Stick was wheeling and dealing. He was making good decisions.
Yes.
Didn't see that in the first half against the Titans. You started to see that better in the third quarter against the Titans. And it led to the Falcons offense climbing out of that hole. Obviously, he didn't do it alone. You had some special teams plays and other things and whatnot. But at the end of the day, all you needed him to is kind of manage the game, make a couple of throws, move the chains, all that sort of stuff. And you started seeing that in the third quarter.
Yeah, indeed. And for you, Jarvis, of course, I say that in jest about you, RIP Easton Stick. But what did you see from Easton Stick, especially in that second half, that impressed you?
I think he got a little bit more comfortable back there, right? Taking shots downfield, and he was able to take advantage of the blown coverage on the touchdown to Chris Blair. And when you see a guy like that, you understand and be able to understand when they be able to get rid of the football and do all those sorts of things. So I think that it was cool to kind of see him come back into the game. Now, granted, it was because of injury and Emmett Jones ended up getting hurt. But when he came back into the game, I was like, oh, they might have a chance to actually kind of come out and get a win because, like Emmett Jones, he's fine, but it's fine when it comes to making the throw and that you're supposed to make as the NFL quarterback. I wouldn't necessarily bet on that. So it was cool to kind of see him come in, look comfortable, get settled, feel the rush and be able to, get out of the pocket and use his legs when he had to. I think it was just a really nice balance of looking like a viable backup quarterback.
Yeah, and that's really all you want to see because admittedly, we kind of think about this game, that second game where Raheem Morris did something that might have seemed odd on the surface, but ultimately wasn't odd at all in that he had everyone to dress out. But of course, when the game started, it was clear that the starters weren't going to start. But ultimately speaking, this is that game where you were just kind of looking to see just what you saw, like Easton Stick, in case you were called in for duty, because people were wondering about Kirk Cousins. Will he play? Won't he play? And what does that mean for us seeing Easton Stick tonight? He showed that, hey, yes, I am technically still QB3, but in the event that QB2 moves on to, I guess, greener pastures for QB2, then ultimately speaking, I think that you would be able to, I think that you would be able to be confident in what you saw, maybe because it was from the perspective of the comeback kid, if you will, right? So I think that's one of those things that shows, hey, in case this quarterback gets down, this quarterback has a rough start, he at least has the ability to do what he needs to do in either coming back or in relief if such a thing should happen. Now, speaking of, like you said, it wasn't Easton Stick that did all of the work by himself. Now, tonight, no Casey Washington, but you did see Chris Blair, David Sills, Dylan Drummond. They all got early looks. So let's go through the wide receiver room. Who impressed you? What were your thoughts on the play that you saw from the wide receivers tonight, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, once again, Chris Blair to me was kind of the standout. He had that big 52-yard catch, again, showcasing his ability to attack vertically down the field. And again, we've stressed that before, where it's like, hopefully we will not see Easton Stick play any football games after next week against the Dallas Cowboys anymore. But obviously, T, as you just mentioned, you got to be prepared for that sort of emergency option. But you can imagine a scenario where Chris Blair, if he does wind up making this roster, and I think the fact that Casey Washington was inactive tonight pretty much solidifies that he's got a roster spot pretty much locked down. The question is just going to be who else is going to make it in this wide receiver room. And I think Chris Blair continues to throw his hat in the ring of being the guy that is most fitting for a roster spot if the Falcons decide to carry, potentially 7 wide receivers, if that's the case at this point in time. And you imagine if Chris Blair does get an opportunity to play this fall with the big time arm that Michael Penix has, with his vertical speed, with his size, that's something outside of Drake London. The Falcons don't really have that in their wide receiver room. Like their two quote unquote big wide receivers are Kadero Hodge and Drake London. And, neither one of those guys are, known for their super explosive speed, although Kadero Hodge looked plenty quick in that week 5 overtime win against the Bucs last year. But Blair does bring a different element with both the combination of size and speed to attack vertically, in addition to the speed that Darnell Mooney has and others have. Ray McLeod, obviously Kyle Pitts is also in that mix as well. But like that is an element that I do think the Falcons could potentially take advantage of with Michael Penix at the helm, given his big time arm. And so Chris Blair to me was one of those guys that continues to stand out this preseason.
Yeah, definitely. When you look at Chris Blair and even like a David Sills, he's kind of had some moments, if you will, here and there. But yeah, Chris Blair, even tonight, leading the receivers with just three receptions, but still 78 yards and a long of 52, and those 3 receptions on 5 targets. So yeah, another good night for Chris Blair. But when you look, Jarvis, at the wide receiver room and how they produced tonight, what did you like about what you saw? Or did you have any concerns about what you saw too?
No, no concerns really, because when you look at the guys that have been pretty consistent in the preseason, when you think about guys like Sills, you think about guys like Chris Blair, like Freeman mentioned, and you think about Nick Nash, they started giving them the ball. You start seeing them working the jet sweep, was probably the most consistent run success that Zach Robinson had calling that particular run play tonight. So when you think about it from that aspect and getting those guys the ball in that manner, right, instead of as a pass catcher, you want to see what they can do. And I like how Drummond looked in that particular role. I actually like Drummond on the punt return. I saw a little wiggle there. When you see those guys getting worked in different ways in different spots, that lets you know that the Falcons are trying to see what these guys are, see what these guys can bring to the table, just in case someone else gets hurt. Or because, I was looking at the final 53 from last year. It's only 5 wide receivers, and 4 of those, all 5 of those guys are on this roster right now. So, when you talk about these guys potentially making the 53, I don't see it happening yet. You just want to be able to put yourself in position just in case, get on the practice squad. And then if another injury happened or something else doesn't work out in the person who makes the roster's favor, then you can be ready to wait. And I think that a guy like Chris Blair, and, is that guy for me. He's the first guy that I'm going to if anything, those scenarios that I just laid out happen.
Yeah, indeed. So we got a little news that we want to kind of break from one of our colleagues here at Locked On. Of course, Tori McElhaney does the squad show with us, the Falcons squad show with us on Mondays, and she is doing a little bit of post-game locker room reporting. And one of the things she mentioned, because obviously that was a question of concern, and that was just regarding Jalen Walker. So I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering what's going on with Jalen, kind of what's the status there. But according to Tori's report, based on what Raheem Morris said post-game, Jalen Walker suffered a groin injury near the end of joint practice Wednesday. He was held out of the game, but they do expect him to be back next week. I think that's a good sign, the fact that there is optimism. But Jarvis, when you talk about the hammy, now you're talking about the groin. Are you getting a little bit concerned about the 100% health and readiness of J-Dub to go come September 7th?
Soft tissue injuries are the hardest to gauge, right?
Yes,
yes. Because, it's all about pain threshold. And do we really want to start talking about pain threshold in the third week of the preseason? We ain't even got into the regular season yet. So, yeah, they're going to proceed with caution. I am so sure of that. But that kind of gives me a little concern, when you think about it from that aspect, because I know James Pierce basically played the whole game.
Yes.
In the second half of the game, they used him in pass rush situations specifically, and I liked him in that role. But when he's out there getting valuable reps, and those are reps that Jalen Walker isn't getting. And we know Jalen Walker needs those reps because James Pierce Jr. mentioned it earlier in this week after practice. He was just like, hey, man, I get a chance to work on my technique. The little things is the fine tuning, and you're going against NFL talent. Now, granted, some of those guys they might go against, or they're probably going to get cut. But guess what? They're still NFL level talent that you're getting live reps against, and that stuff is so valuable, especially for a rookie trying to find his way. And Jalen Walker hasn't been able to get that. So, yeah, I'm not pressing the panic button, but I am concerned.
Yes. And that's fair.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Jarvis. This is a concern because this has been a pattern with Jalen Walker throughout the last 6 months, right? We saw him not participate at the combine because he tweaked a quad, right? Wasn't able to do his full pro day, the next month in April because of that same injury. And now we're at, training camp, and we're like 2 days into training camp, and, he's dealing with a hamstring issue, and now it's a groin injury, and it's just going around the entire leg, right? Just every muscle on that leg is seemingly getting tweaked here and there. And so at a certain point, when you're coming back from these injuries and trying to work yourself back, this is what leads to some of those aggravations, you can call it, when it comes in. So is there going to be a point where the Falcons just say, hey, man, we just kind of need to shut you down for a month so that you can heal up and so that we can get the full version of you? And the later we go in the season before we reach that point, that becomes a potential issue. So we're not there yet, but your mind starts going there where it's just like, we haven't had Jalen Walker been able to practice more than 2 days in a row without him suffering some type of soft tissue injury. Once we get into the actual grind of the regular season, is that going to be a problem? And so that, to me, is why it's a concern at this point in time. So obviously there's still plenty of time for him to heal up and get ready for week one. We'll see how it goes. It's nothing too, worrisome. It's not a tendon or a ligament or anything like that, a sprain or anything like that. It's just tweaking some of these muscles and whatnot. But it is, it is a potential, we'll say it's a yellow flag at this point in time when it comes to the injury front before it becomes a red flag. But if we get another soft tissue injury in the next couple of weeks, at that point, it does become a red flag, I think.
Yeah. And for you went exactly where my mind went to, because I started playing back in my mind and playing back to the combine and playing back to personal workouts and how these are those where it's that lingering, right? That just keeps rearing its ugly head, and probably will until, like you said, you may have to just, or Raheem Morris, Jeff Ulbrich may have to make that tough decision that, hey, as much as we would love him to be a part of that starting lineup and a part of the rotation for that first week of the season, at the end of the day, do you want him to be 100% and be valuable for you, hopefully come January, and just maybe take that L in the first week or two if that's what needs to happen, or do you keep taking chances? But you got to think with a guy like Raheem Morris being as conservative as he is, and one who errs on the side of an abundance of caution, that you can see him maybe shutting Jalen Walker down definitely for the rest of the preseason, but maybe we even will have to just accept not seeing him for that opening day, that home opener against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on September 7th. But there were some good things and some shaky things as well that we saw for the defense that did suit up and hit the field tonight. We'll talk about that when we take it under further review. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show, the postcast, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Monarch makes it simple to review your finances, even with a partner, where you can set budgets, goals, and spend activity on one place. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. monarchmoney.com. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. So, Jarvis, I was thinking this was interesting. I wanted to kind of walk through a couple of different groups, but certainly anyone who stood out, we want to talk about that as well, or anyone or any scheme that was of concern, we want to talk about that as well. But first things first, I wanted to know what your thoughts were, because we mentioned James Pierce Jr. and the fact that he got a lot of action tonight, but your thoughts on him even working opposite Arnold Ebiketie off the edge.
I think it was these are the necessary steps. I mean, he wasn't, breathing fire off the edge and sacking the quarterback like that. But I think on the Natron Brooks interception, that was a pressure. Yeah, he was right there. He forced the errant throw, and Natron Brooks took advantage of it. So those are the type of things that I want to see more of. And I think that he's working towards that. Like I said, like I mentioned with Jalen Walker being out, James Pierce is getting these reps, and he needs them. He's getting them, and you're starting to see him kind of stack them together. Like, here I am sounding like a coach, stacking those plays together to, build up to the Bucs, right? Because you need that. Like, you never played in the NFL before, so how you going to be ready to go in game one if you never stepped on a football field before?
Yeah.
And when it's not structured. So yeah, I think that I love how the Falcons been using him and getting him out there, and I think he's going to be, that guy, come week one against the Bucs. And I want to bring up another thing really quickly.
Yeah.
People were kind of shocked when Jeff Ulbrich mentioned that there are 3 or 4 open spots, starting spots, the guys battling for starting spots, and if you've really been paying attention, you shouldn't be surprised, because like you mentioned, you talk about those pairings. They've been playing around with those pairings. So James Pierce Jr. and Arnold Ebiketie might just be that starting edge group for you, or in the nickel, right? So on pass rush downs. So, but on first down, it might be Zach Harrison, and having Brandon Doyle's down inside and Ruka Roro down inside, and then having maybe Arnold Ebiketie on the outside as well. So it's a lot of different pairings going on, and I think that we may have had a glimpse of what 3rd and 7 or 8, and Baker Mayfield is lined up in the gun. We might see 27 and 17 lined up on opposite sides of each other, rushing the quarterback. So yeah, I love it. I love how they're kind of playing around with those pairings, and I think that James Jr. took advantage of the reps that he's going to continue to get, hopefully.
Yeah. And what about you, Aaron? That particular pairing, what did you think about that? Or maybe some of the unique pairings that you saw tonight that are kind of encouraging you in terms of Jeff Ulbrich saying, hey, I'm still looking for the competition. I'm still looking to see which one of these is going to potentially work. And kind of when we talk about that variety piece, kind of who showed their ability to move around and be effective.
Yeah, Jarvis mentioned it. James Pierce Jr. popped a couple of times on that Natron Brooks interception. There was a third down scramble by Brandon Allen where he just bull rushed the heck out of the left tackle, and that forced him to step up. There was an opportunity for him to get a sack late in the game with the D'Angelo Malone pressure, and unfortunately, Trevor Siemian put on a wily veteran move on him in the open field. And unfortunately, I know James Pierce is going to be kicking himself, be like, man, I had my opportunity to get that first sack. But I think with this group of players, you got to see a lot of different pairings up front, right? We've talked about a bunch of times the constant rotation of different guys, whether it's James Pierce and D'Angelo Malone, James Pierce, Brilland Trice, Arnold Ebiketie in the mix and all that stuff. So I think you saw some flashes. I'll be very intrigued to go back and watch the film to see how James Pierce in particular looked in those first two series, going up against the Titans starting offensive tackles with Dan Moore and JC Latham starting this game, because the plays that he made later in the game were against the backups. And so I want to see him against starting caliber offensive tackles, because that's obviously what he's going to see every single week once we get to the regular season, with the exception of that week 1 game where shout out to Charlie Heck, stepping in for Tristan Wirfs. We will welcome you back to the NFL, Charlie, if we have anything to do with it come week 1. But I think for the most part, I love seeing Zach Harrison get that late pressure late in the game, rushing from the inside, showcasing the versatility that we've been talking about Zach Harrison possessing, that everybody talks about the back and forth. Oh, he was an edge and he was promising then, and he moved inside. And then it's like, hey, man, Zach Harrison's making plays wherever you put him at. That's what you want to see from a player like that. And that gives the team a versatile chess piece, as Jarvis pointed out, right? You get that big, heavy guy that can set the edge when you want to beef up this run defense, which, we probably might talk about later today. The run defense, still looks like it could use some improvement. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Zach Harrison certainly, I think, flashed some of the things that you saw up front. So I think overall, this group continued to be that aggressive attacking front that you saw. It'll be fascinating to me to see how many D linemen that they carry, just so that they can have, I feel confident that they'll keep at least 10, but could they keep 11, 12, even 13 guys up front, just so that they can have this huge rotation up front? And so I think as we continue to see different combinations, it's like a lot of these guys are making a case. They're like, yeah, man, Laquel London knifing through the backfield, Morgan Fox making some plays as well. So, all of these guys are making a case to stick around in Atlanta. And so I like some of the things I saw in this game, even if it wasn't quite as dominant, maybe not be the right word, but as eye-popping a performance for the defensive front this week as it was last week.
Yeah. Well, since you mentioned him, I wanted to bring this up as well, because it was a question that a lot of people had last week, because really and truly you've been looking for it since last season, and that is the appearance of Brilland Trice. So finally got an opportunity to see Brilland take the field tonight. Jarvis, what did you think about him?
I mean, I like what I saw him in the run game. I thought, using his hands, getting in the backfield, as soon as that offensive lineman or that offensive tackle or that tight end try to put his hands on, he quickly knock him off, get in the backfield and make a play, and we saw that, tonight. So for me, I'm going to talk about Trice just like I talked about James Pierce Jr., because I'm going to treat Trice as a doggone rookie. Hey, he's a rookie trying to figure it out. He's trying to work his technique. He's trying to get those live reps. Thankfully they let him loose tonight. They unleashed him tonight. So I like what I saw, from him, and it's going to continue to be a development. Hopefully he gets some more reps in the next game. I don't know what their snap plan for him, going forward is going to be, but I know that he's going to need those reps. But I did like what I saw from him tonight.
And what about you, Free? What did you think about what you saw in Brilland's performance tonight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to go back through the film because watching it live, the moments he popped to me were, as Jarvis said, were against the run as opposed to as a pass rusher. The things that stood out to me as a pass rusher, and I don't mean this to knock Brilland Trice, but like he didn't have quite the same juice off the edge that some of these other edge rushers that the Falcons have now brought into the building have shown in these games. And you wonder if that means that when we get to pass rushing situations in the regular season, are the Falcons going to be like, yeah, we kind of have like 4 other guys that maybe can bring a little bit more to the table in some of those 3rd and 7 situations that Jarvis is talking about against Baker Mayfield. And so does that mean that Brilland Trice is going to be limited to mostly an early down guy just because he can add a little bit more size, you know, being able to set the edge and play with that relentless motor that we know he has, that maybe it's just a little bit more valuable in the run game as opposed to the pass rush. So it'll be interesting to go back again, watch the film. Maybe he popped a little bit more as a pass rusher than my initial eye indicated, but we'll see where Trice fits in the pass rushing rotation, because not having that rookie year, I think, really sort of put him behind the 8 ball, particularly with the Falcons, where they went out there and said, hey, man, we need as much help as we possibly can get at the edge rusher position. We paid Leonard Floyd. We drafted James Pierce. We drafted Jalen Walker. All these guys, we have a vested interest in maximizing these investments, these first-round investments, this $10 million to Leonard Floyd, more so than we do with the 3rd-round pick that didn't really do anything last year. Again, not his fault or whatever. But, I liked what I saw from him. But, I do wonder if he's going to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. And speaking of that linebacker core, interesting that J.D. Bertrand got the green dot tonight. We, of course, know that allows a player to communicate with their coaches via a headset. But any thoughts on that? And then Jarvis and Aaron as well, before we wrap up, of course, I want to go back to Run D, because I know there were some things that you guys were concerned about with what you saw, but just wanted to ask about your thoughts on J.D. Bertrand getting the green dot on his helmet.
Cool. I mean, I think I have more to say, but it's like when they drafted him to be Captain America, it was like, okay, this is probably what he'll do. He'll be the guy that wears the green dot in the preseason, and hopefully we don't see him, because Caden Ellis is going to have that job during the regular season, and hopefully Caden Ellis does not leave the field.
Placeholder, sir.
I was just saying, Free, like, okay, just try to give Guy a little love for getting the green dot.
I mean,
see, like I said, here we go. You got to make some plays for you to get love on this show. I'm sorry. Can't get around the ball. Like, you got to make plays. Like,
so you got to get love on the show by making plays. But if you don't, we'll come for you as well, because Jarvis wants to come for that run defense.
Yeah, like, you know what? Can I be honest with y'all? Can I just pour my heart out for a second?
When have you never?
We're here for you. Exactly. We're here for you. But even if we weren't here for you, would it even matter? Because you're going to do you regardless. As Aaron said, you're going to do you regardless.
There was a time in my life between the age of 18 and 22 where, coaches always say, man, you practice how you play the game. I'm like, man, whatever. But, oh my gosh. If I didn't believe it then, I believe it now. I eventually, I will always do what I was supposed to do. But, I believe wholeheartedly that is true in the NFL, because what happened in practice when I went to joint practices on that Tuesday, there were times where Titans just lined up in 11 personnel, Falcons were in that nickel, and they just could not stop the run. And that's exactly what happened tonight. They had no answer. Now, I give them a little grace. It's preseason. We're not going to be making all these major adjustments. We ain't trying to put all our stuff out there on tape and all that stuff. I give you a little bit of grace. But what I did see was not what I saw last year. A lot of guys holding it up. And then as soon as the running back tried to get by him, they reaching out with their arm and trying to doggone grab him. I was like, hey, man, look, if you're going 2-gap, It don't work like that. It means you got to put that offensive lineman on the other side of their line of scrimmage, and then as soon as that back gets there, then you get rid of him and you making the tackle. And that did not happen. We saw it time and time again. The Titans would line up in 11 personnel, and they were just running right at the Falcons, and there was nothing they could do about it. So yeah, that's a big concern for me in this particular game. Now, granted, get the starters in there, guys that know they're going to be in there, and then they coming in and making plays. You got Jordan and all that stuff in the game. Yeah, it might not be the same. But as of tonight, like it happened in practice, they popped a couple runs right up the middle, and guys were just looking around like, hey, what happened? And that's exactly what happened tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Titans showed a formula that I'm a little nervous about. And Jarvis and I have discussed this on Locked On Falcons a couple of times, where it's just like the formula for beating the Falcons is we're going to run the football down your throat and we're going to challenge you to stop it. And that's going to not only be able to control the clock, that's going to keep these, vaunted pass rushers that we all are sitting here marveling at. Again, it sounds such a weird thing to say about the Falcons having a good pass rush and teams being afraid of the Falcons pass rush. It's sentences that have never been spoken by me ever on a podcast. But like,
has never said it.
We're being optimistic for once here and saying yes, this pass rush is going to be that unit. And you keep that pass rush at bay. You run at these light edges that we have in James Pierce and Jalen Walker and all these guys, and you just run at them. And then you get, not only is that effective against this defense, but guess what? That's the best way to stop the Falcons offense, by keeping them on the sideline and controlling the position. Now, you saw this in the second half of this game against Tennessee, where they're just like, we're just going to run the football, and guess what? You're not going to stop it. And we saw it be effective. Now, again, it's the preseason, as Jarvis said. It's the second half of the games. These are the third and fourth string guys. And, it's easy to just simply dismiss it. But this is going to be a formula that a lot of teams in the NFL are going to be like, we are going to copy this. And it's going to be up to, obviously, the Falcons starters when we get to the regular season to stop it. So it's one of those things where it's not a huge issue. It's not, oh, no, the sky is falling. But it is one of those things that everybody should make a mental note that we're going to see a lot more of this style of offense going up against this Falcons defense in the regular season when the games matter.
Yeah, and free JD, it's not the sky is falling, but the fact that we're talking about it again this week causes concern. We'll talk about that on the other side. This episode of our Falcons Squad Show postcast is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. Yes, we as a squad might just be coming your way playing Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first timer or a veteran making your millionth league. One of the favorite features for you might just be the new guillotine leagues they just dropped. And whether you're all in on something new or you like sticking to head-to-head leagues or jumping into public leagues, Yahoo's got you covered for that too. So celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness. Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues that I mentioned, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, whether the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. So with the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Well, Aaron, it is a refrain that at this point, it's a little concerning and disconcerting to put it on repeat, but it is what it is. Now, granted, we saw from the O-line last week, second string, albeit performance that we really weren't pleased with. Not a lot more to improve upon or talk about improvement that we saw tonight. But I thought something else was interesting as well, and just wanted to get you guys' thoughts there, but also to talk about the concerns we have about that subpar play from the second unit. So a little bit of a shakeup. Elijah Wilkinson moved from guard to tackle. Josh Gray moved into that left guard spot. Wilkinson vacated. But do you think maybe that has more to do with Storm Norton getting injured, or how that may affect the 53-man roster overall?
Well, I think that's a strong indication that the team is out on Brandon Parker, because he was the guy that started at left tackle last week, and he was working with the third string, the backups, the so-called backups tonight in the fourth quarter, and he got demoted. And basically, Elijah Wilkinson got the opportunity to show, hey, you can play guard and you can play tackle. That's more valuable than a guy who's not playing tackle particularly well, as we saw with Brandon Parker last week, as discussed by ourselves and myself on Locked On Falcons. The fact that Brandon Parker, an 8-year veteran, had a rougher game than Jack Nelson in his first NFL action is not a promising sign. And I think that was reflected in Elijah Wilkinson getting the start. So I think a lot of people will look at the box score and say, oh, the Falcons ran for 115 yards. What's the concern with the offensive line? And it's like, well, 43 of those yards came off of one run. And when you look at the runs to the running backs, right, it's like, I think it was like something like 80 yards on like 19 carries or something like that. And again, half of those yards came on like one run. And like when you break it down like that, basically outside of that one Nathan Carter touchdown, like the running back runs were averaging like 2 yards a carry or something like that. And so as Jarvis said earlier in the show, like their most effective way of moving the ball on the ground was jet sweeps to the wide receivers and Emory Jones and Easton Stick, tucking it and running it for themselves. So this has been a talking point since last week. The backup offensive line is not clearing run lanes. They were better tonight, but they still weren't to the level that you wanted it to be. You saw a lot of penalties. You saw a lot of false starts, right? You saw holding calls. It was just a sloppy day for the offensive line up front. And it continues to be an issue. Again, improvement, but still a lot of issues that the Falcons are going to have to resolve. And part of me thinks it goes back to that 2015 offseason or summer in training camp, where the Falcons had a certain starting five that they thought they were going to have. And then they were like, then the Dolphins came to town and beat the brakes off of them. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we got to get a new center. We got a new left guard or whatever. And again, obviously we're not talking about that with the Falcons 5 starters, but part of you kind of sits here and wonders, like, are we going to completely shuffle out this entire second string offensive line, because the performances through 2 games have not been good enough.
Yeah. And when you look at their performance, just as you mentioned, Free, and you think about the false starts, you think about the pressures, the 5 QB pressures, you think about the tackles for loss on those run plays. And like you mentioned, one chunk play kind of covering or masking what was really not going well with that run game tonight. And Jarvis, it has to be a bit concerning, because we're seeing it for that second weekend in a row, or that second week in a row. And yeah, it may be the second unit, but we know that last season, Ryan Newsel had to spring into action for 8 games. So what you're seeing from the second unit still does matter.
Yeah, 1,000%, because what good teams have depth, and like we talked about, Aaron mentioned how that first team offensive line, nobody's really concerned about them. But like you said, the Falcons needed Ryan Newsel to play 8 games last year. And you saw what happened, right? Like there was a little bit of a drop off, but he did a solid job. That's why they were okay with Drew Dahlman walking out of the door, because they weren't trying to pay him that type of money that he was going to draw on in free agency. So for me, I think that this is one of those scenarios where they have their pro scouts going out. Hey, man, who's not going to make it over here? We need to figure out that offensive lineman in Kansas City that's right on the verge of probably on the bubble. Y'all go keep an eye out on them, though. And I think that's what's going to eventually end up happening. And it's unfortunate, because you get familiar with the guys, the Jovan Gwynns of the world, the Elijah Wilkinsons, who out here getting penalties. And bro, you been in the league for how long? Like, are you false starting? That's just you just not focused, or you're scared. One, you're scared you're gonna get beat. So those are some of the things that shouldn't be happening in this stage of his career, right? Like Jovan Gwynn, we can have a conversation about him, all right, still learning position, still trying to get settled in that particular spot. And you can work with them, but you have to be in a scenario where when you're talking about just getting off the ball and getting your hands on someone, like that's what offensive linemen should want to do. Ask Caleb McGarry. Ask him what he would rather do. Come off the ball and fire off and put his hands on you and try to put you in the dirt, or backpedal at angles and try to figure out what that edge rushers are going to do, because he knows his weaknesses and because he's been watching film on him for the past week and a half. So I think the Falcons right now, they should be on the phone trying to figure out what's available to bring in, because you can't have all across the board and then your best swing tackle or tackle is still injured, and this is what you have. So if the season were to start today, Jack Nelson going to be your backup right tackle? I mean, he's been fine. He's been okay. He's been okay.
For a rookie.
For a rookie, right.
Yeah,
a 7th round draft pick.
Rookie. I do not want to put him into a game.
No.
NFL pass rusher, yeah.
And Brandon Parker got sat down for Elijah Wilkinson. And Joshua Gray was in at guard. So are you okay with Joshua Gray coming in at left guard? God forbid something happened to Matt Bergeron. Kyle Hinton out there getting worked. If Chris Lindstrom goes down, that's your first sub at guard. So, yeah, you should be concerned. We should be concerned. Everyone should be concerned how these backup offensive linemen. Notice I said backup offensive linemen. Some of these guys don't make the team.
Yeah.
So, it's the phone calls will have to be made, because you can't continue to run those guys out there like that, because I feel like this was one of the reasons why Kirk didn't play. Now, some people may say that, hey, he wasn't going to play anyway, but guess what? That offensive line was going to help the scenario to go the opposite. So, This is what you're working with, and that's a harsh reality to come through 2 games into the preseason. But just know this. I feel like this front office is going to make a move.
Yeah. And Jarvis, you spied something while you were in the stadium tonight. The Falcons passing game coordinator, TJ Yates, called the game from the box tonight, and Zach Robinson was on the sideline. What do you think about that move?
I think it's cool, because here's the thing. Let Zach Robinson have a top 5, top 10 offense. Somebody going to call. Somebody going to want to interview him at least get a feel for where his head at from a head coaching standpoint, if that's what he wants to do, if he wants to take the interview. So you got to have some guys ready to roll. And then this is, a Sean McVay piece, right? Like Sean McVay did these things. He had guys call plays, during the preseason, because I love this. I love this, man. When you talk about having a plan, like we talked about having a plan, for your guys. Mm-hmm. And I think the coaching staff needs to do that as well. And Raheem Morris is doing a good job of that. Like, hey, Zach, you're gonna be on the field tonight. TJ, it's all on you. Let's call it. Let's see. Let's get it going. And you saw Easton Stick, pretty doggone solid. Comeback kid, So I think this is nothing but good things. Like I love guys getting these type of opportunities. Those guys getting prepped within them already doing their job. They get opportunities to work towards what their ultimate goal is. I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah. When TJ Yates got the promotion from quarterbacks coach to offensive passing game coordinator, and DJ Williams was the assistant quarterback coach, now the full-time quarterbacks coach, the writing seemed to be on the wall that TJ Yates was potentially the OC in waiting in the event of what Jarvis is talking about, where if this Falcons team reaches its goals this upcoming season based off of what people expect from this team, having a winning record, making the playoffs, having a top 10 offense, yes, Jarvis is right. Zach Robinson will get some phone calls, will get some head coaching interviews, because this league absolutely wants young, offensive-minded head coaches, and particularly from this coaching tree. Zach Robinson will get some opportunities. So if you're the Falcons, you gotta prep for life after Zach Robinson now, because you're not going to get another opportunity until after the season. If you need to, make a change at offensive coordinator. And so you want to get a good look at TJ Yates in a, low pressure environment, right? In a preseason game, no one's going to be sitting here overly scrutinizing. Hey, TJ, why did you? Or I got hit up by a couple of Locked On Falcons listeners. Like, why are they calling screen passes on those third and longs? I'm like, hey guys, calm down. It's a preseason. Like, they're just, it is what it is. I get it. Like, hopefully we will not see, you got Drake London and all these guys like third and 11, throw the ball down the field. But that's in the regular season. It's preseason. You just want to get an evaluation. Let's see, it's basically, hey, can you block on a screen pass? Let's see if we can evaluate that. So all that to say, TJ Yates did a solid job, I thought, in his first real action of play calling. And so I think this is a smart move for the Falcons to just, kick the tires, see what's going on, so that if and when they have to make a decision after the season on a new play caller, they at least can say, hey, TJ's got some experience. He called a preseason game. Did you see Easton Stick, moving, wheeling and dealing the third quarter? These are all the things that will be
narrative. Easton Stick got TJ Yates, the OC job.
Yeah, pretty much. We got nothing else to talk about, guys. So we got to just come up with whatever we can say at this point in time to push whatever agendas we got. So yeah. We'll see what's what with TJ Yates, but certainly I think this was good reps for him, that may come to pay off for the Falcons down the road.
We shall see. And interestingly enough, maybe this team didn't show up like they showed up last week. Thoughts? We'll talk about it on the other side. So guys, before we get to the fun stuff, I'll check the comments from now and again and just kind of see if there's something that catches my eye. This one was an interesting comment. Send It 542 says that they felt like this Falcons team as a whole seemed flat, seemed like they were more fired up last week. So Aaron, did you see, or Jarvis, did you see whether that was on offense, defense, special teams, or overall that this team just didn't seem like they had that fire that they had when they took the field last week?
I mean, I get the sentiment. It did seem like a very flat performance. Now, as someone who has covered this team for as long as I have, this is the normal Falcons preseason performance. Last week was the weird outlier. So, where they're out there flying around making plays and like, well, what is this? I've never seen this in the Falcons preseason. They come out flat every single summer, and it's just like 0-3, 1-3, whatever their records are every preseason. This is the norm. The inconsistency, bad quarterback play for a half of a game, and, not being able to run the football, not being able to get stops. Like, this is the normal Falcons preseason performance. So I can understand why he says relative to last week, it looks flat. For me, I'm not too down on it because I'm just like, oh, this is the norm. This is what I've grown used to seeing every single preseason for the last 20 years it's been. And so it doesn't necessarily register as a negative to me because it's like, this is just, this is the classic Falcons preseason performance. This is the old flavors that I'm so used to every year, every summer, that we just sit here and just like, everybody gets excited about the preseason. Oh man, the preseason's back. And then midway through the first half, we're like, the preseason's back. So.
Oh, Free. It's so funny that you said that, dog. Like, so I was walking around like during halftime. Some of the NFL, like not the referees, but like guys who worked the games, the NFL officials, like former players and stuff like that. Kind of cool with them and everything. So talking to him, one guy walked past me. He was like, "Man, it's preseason." I was like, "Man, it's preseason." Oh my gosh, dog. I'm like, "Hey, man, it's all right, baby." I'm always trying to be optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, cause it's football. It's real football. They're playing real football out there. You know what I'm saying? The games don't count, but they're playing real football out there. So. Yeah. But that's the. I mean, this is what we're kind of used to, right? Hey, you notice I said I saw some James Lake stuff going on out there. You know what I'm saying? I saw a little bit of that.
All about the government name. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? James out there. I saw some James Lake out there. Hey, man, now I will not stand for that. We will not go back there. That's what we won't do, because I've seen your capabilities.
Yeah.
Like my man mentioned, in that first game, whoo, you can feel it through the television. And I was in the building tonight, and I was just like, hey, man, what is this? What is going on? I need y'all to get off blocks, sirs. Like, y'all know y'all got Nate Eyelash, y'all assistant coach, right? I've been pumping this man up all off season, man. Like, y'all can't leave me like this out here on an island by myself, pumping up this man as a D-line coach because y'all been listening to him. Y'all listened to him the first game. What happened this game?
Right.
So yeah. Like we can't. I wouldn't say flat though. I feel like some of it was scheme stuff that you don't really want to go too deep into.
Yeah.
In the preseason, because I know, like teams running the football on you, that's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Like I would rather get thrown for 500 yards and 2 tugs than 200 yards on the ground. Like,
because something about that just feels like I own you at the line of scrimmage in like the worst way.
Yes. I'm taking all of it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
Yes.
And maybe you can kind of excuse away some of it because, like we talked about before, there was some experimentation that Jeff Ulbrich was doing tonight. That maybe if it wasn't game one, so it's like, okay, let me just throw these wrinkles in and kind of see, because next week we legit don't expect to see too many, if even probably the second string, to be honest. So this would have been the time for him to kind of throw some wrinkles in. Real quick before I talk about our final subject, which is always fun for us when we're talking about food on this show. But Aaron, Jarvis, you guys got any game balls that you want to give out for anybody that really impressed?
I'll give it to. I'm probably stealing Jarvis's guy, but I'm going to give it to Natron Brooks. Like he had the standout play of the night. Wish he would have made that tackle on that one touchdown. But hey, you're allowed to miss a tackle if you get an interception. You take the ball away. Okay, we'll let it slide. We'll forgive you.
That will be forgiven.
Yes, so I sit there and I go, Natron Brooks deserves a game ball. And as I've joked on Locked On Falcons, this man is a preseason superstar. Okay. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean
but he has been. You're right.
Every summer, this man goes out there and impresses you. And like, man, Natron Brooks, man. Like, what's going on? Natron Brooks out here hitting people, making interceptions, making plays. It's like, that's why him missing that tackle. It's like, what? I've never seen Natron Brooks miss a tackle. That's never happened. He just got too big in his head. He was like, I'm a superstar. Right. And so, I'll let somebody else make this tackle because I'm too busy, too tired making all the plays on defense. And so, they got one past him. They caught him sleeping a little bit, but this man is a preseason superstar. So I'm looking forward to Natron Brooks being on this roster based off what we've seen this summer.
Fair.
Yeah. I'm just going to echo what Aaron said, because like, this is what the preseason is all about. Like, Natron Brooks has been a preseason all-star. Last year, he didn't make the final 53. Now, granted, he was on the 53-man roster, and you saw him get a little run, as the season went along. But, he didn't make the initial 53-man roster. And I even tweeted this out during the game. After that play, I was like, hey, man, it's going to be hard as doo-doo to keep this man off this 53-man roster. And our own Tori McElhaney of AtlantaFalcons.com said, he is going to be on this roster. So if Tori said, hey, look, she in the building, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I take it as the gospel. I roll with that too. And even before that, like in training camp, in practice, in camp, in games, he's just been doing it. He's been killing it on special teams. And when guys that are at that bottom rung of the roster, you got to be a special team all-star. Yeah. He's been a preseason all-star. He's out there making plays, taking advantage of the James Pierce Jr. pressure. So when you have guys doing stuff like that, yeah, you definitely deserve a game ball. He definitely deserves to be on this final 53-man roster, because Falcons ain't got time to be waiting around for folks to get healthy.
No,
I'm just saying.
Not at all.
Can I do honor mention?
Yes, sir.
D. Alford. Sticky.
Wait, what?
D. Alford.
Are you talking about 20?
D. Alford. sticky coverage.
Wow.
Yes, I'm putting that in the same sentence.
Okay.
It probably was an incomplete sentence because, I do that pretty often. But, D. Alford had some sticky coverage tonight.
Hey, D. Alford getting
Wait
some
a
love
minute.
in the show.
DeAndre Alford got a
He went with the
shout out.
government.
DeAndre?
She went with the government.
Shout out to D. Alford getting some love. Hey, he's been through a lot. He's been through a lot.
Get it how you can. Exactly.
Sticky coverage.
He's fought for his life, Aaron. So, we're giving it back to him.
Literally. He's literally. Hey, but B.A. Billy Bodo, telling you, man, he's the perfect fit. He's the perfect fit, man.
You guys will have to check it out Monday so we can talk a little bit more because we didn't get an opportunity to talk secondary. So definitely come back Monday and check out the squad show because we'll dive a little deeper into what we saw from the secondary tonight. But before we forget, this is always a fun thing that we do every preseason because the Falcons do something cool every preseason for the media. So Jarvis was the representative for the squad show tonight at the game, and ahead of the game, A&B Sports and Entertainment and the Benz Stadium invited media to an exclusive food and beverage showcase. Mm-hmm. This year's tasting event offered that elevated preview of the premium food and beverage experiences that fans will enjoy. But honestly, we get to enjoy a lot of that as well. So Jarvis, last week was such a troublesome week for me. It was not a culinary experience that I had become accustomed to at the Benz. So tell me, the premium experience tonight, did they redeem themselves?
Yes, Lord. Oh, those breaded wings, that dirty bird rub.
Chef's kiss.
Woo! So amazing. So, I've been working out, I've been getting my life together. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am so close to walking around with my shirt off. Like, I'm just, that might be TMI.
You've been flirting with that for a few years now, so you feel like you're almost there. Okay.
I'm almost there. Like,
and wait, Aaron, this is incredibly important for Jarvis because this year he is returning to homecoming, so he needs to get fine. He needs to be Jarvis Davis, Albany State football champion fine. Okay? So this is not a drill anymore. It's not a drill.
I've gotten Tanae to roll her eyes like 3 times already. Me talking about what I'm wearing, all that stuff. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be a movie. So but back to my story. So I got off track.
That Jarvis has, he's curated the proper way.
Yes.
In consideration of what he wants to look like in a couple of months, but it sounds like you had a pleasant experience today.
Yes. So I've been working out, so I tried to be calm. I only got 5 pieces initially. You know what I'm saying?
Initially. I got you. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to maintain.
I got you.
Lose weight. I'm trying to do my thing. Trying to keep it tight. You know what I'm saying? Literally. So, and then once I sampled that 5-piece, they had the little barbecue sliders. It's like I looked at, I got a wrap. 3-point conversion. Shout out. I said, hey man, I'm going back and get some more, bro. I need to go give me some more wings, doc. Like I went and got another 4-piece. And I'm sitting that mug. I'm in that mug in the second quarter like this. Like, woo. I just thought cute. Then I was like, woo, shout out to that the culinary group tonight because they put it down. That dirty bird rub. I was up there trying to sample that thing. You know me, T. I'm a foodie. I'm up there like, okay, so what kind of seasoning? I know some paprika in that thing. The lemon pepper, the crack pepper, you know what I'm saying? You got crack pepper in that thing too, get that little kick to it. Extra, and they had a little spice in there. I'm just like, hey man, what y'all put in this thing? Like I was like a little dope fiend. I was like, hey man, what y'all put in that rub? But yeah, it was like they redeemed themselves. I didn't sample last week, but I know for a fact like this week was amazing.
Chef's kiss.
Yes.
So, Aaron, I just want to give you the last 30 seconds to chime in because, I mean, Jarvis was really feeling it. Like, he went back and re-experienced it. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what he did.
See, I thought Jarvis was about to do a countdown. He got the 5-piece, then he got the 4-piece, then he got the 3-piece, then he got the 2-piece, then he got the 1-piece. He was counting down to the end of the game. That's basically he was doing a whole countdown. So, Jarvis, I would have been right there beside you, just doing a whole countdown.
Bro.
Let's get
They had that blue cheese up in that thing too, dog. Boy, they had the
I saw the pictures of the promo of the wings. I was like, you gonna share some of
all drums, dog. All drums, boy. I mean, like, ooh, let me get that.
I would have been right there. I would have been right there.
And then the ice cream machine is new. Yeah, so we had a remix on the ice cream machine. Like, that's a thing. People don't understand. That's the thing, man. That's the thing.
T. Since I'm being open tonight, I'm being open. I had ice cream too, and cupcake, red velvet joint.
Jarvis, you got anything else you want to confess before
That's
we get
what
out
I
of
was
here?
gonna say. Like, while we're doing confessions up in here, shoot.
We will cleanse you of your sins. You know.
Yes.
I'm trying to get it all out now, so I won't feel bad
right
in the
now.
morning. So y'all, please forgive me, Falcon Squad listeners. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to relax, relate, and release this thing before you know what I'm saying? Yes, I did. Shout out to my boy LAFF Laugh. Jarvis ate enough for us all. Yes, I did. I'm glad. That's why I had to break it down the way I did, so y'all can really understand. Because I was thinking about y'all.
Right, because we were living vicariously through you, whether you knew it or not. We really were, and so we appreciate what you did, not just for us, but also for the Falcon Squad Show faithful. Thanks to our everydayers. Speaking of them, for making our postcast your first listen of the day, be sure to stop by Locked on Falcons with your host, Aaron Freeman, as your second listen. And you can catch Jarvis as a frequent contributor for Locked on Falcons. We'll see you next time.
Y'all check out Aaron, like right now.
Go, Aaron, go.